Hey everybody, it's the Red Zone. It's Thursday. It's the entrance of Fantastic Four PD weekend here on the Red Zone as we're entering week five of Podcast Smash. We've had a whole month of different podcasters, educational podcasters coming together and bringing the tools of 21-22 so that we're preparing for 22-23. And it can't happen without your voice, without your 2 cents involved in here. Greetings from Josh Dolad Memorial Pathway Academy, principal in vacationing outside of Tampa Bay, Florida.
Clearwater.
Clearwater. I'm sorry, Clearwater, Florida. But it doesn't matter where we're at because we're always learning, taking this opportunity to make sure that we're all on the same page so that we do what's in the best interest of our kids from Alaska all the way to Hawaii, from Maine all the way to Florida, all the way in the middle. We're stronger together by learning from each other. What do you think about that, Dean?
It's Thursday night, man. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm kind of falling in love with this Thursday night smash because you know what? It can go in any direction, man. We could have 5 teachers on talking curriculum. We could have 5 administrators, a couple of assistant principals. We could bring the bus drivers on. It doesn't matter who. We get a chance to really come together and just talk about what makes it special to be part of a team, to be part of an organization. And I think that's absolutely what this is all about. My name is Dean Packard. I'm the principal of Charlton Middle School, one of the co-founders of Unlock the Middle. And we are here tonight to bring you just another layer of positive ripples in the field of education. So if you're following us, you're going to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. It'll be on LinkedIn later on. But more importantly, share this out later on because there's always a nugget underneath all these conversations that help all of us become a little bit better. Josh, you agree with me with that?
I think that the last couple of weeks and through the whole trajectory of the Red Zone, we've really learned a lot from each other. Like you said, Dean, when we had our campus clerks, when we had our cafeteria personnel, when we had our bus drivers, we all saw life through their eyes, their perspective. And it's crucial that we all are aware because it's one family, una familia, and we need to know what's going on at each step. The bus driver gets them where? In the morning. And who ends up with them? The bus driver in the afternoon. So it's all the way in the middle that we all learn from each other, learn the tools, and I agree. The Red Zone is something beautiful that's been going on, and we can't do it without some awesome people presenting to us their experiences, their knowledge. And who do we have in backstage?
We got a lot in the back, and I'm going to tell you, we're going to start bringing them all in right now. This is episode number 22. So if you ever go back and take a look at it, you can see some of our friends here have been on before, but more importantly, they're back again. And we're going to bring everybody in at once here with a big smile on their face. And we've got one more. I've got Principal Scott on the bottom coming in right now. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Great to have you here. More importantly, I have some familiar faces with us tonight, but at the end of the day, we're all in this same game together, and that's what makes this type of segment really, really nice. Hey, let's kick it around the room. Just introduce yourself, where you're from, and then we're going to get on to some deeper questions. Ryan, why don't you start off in the lower corner? All right, Ryan, you're muted. First of all, for the audience out there, I want to say congratulations to Ryan Scott, Principal Ryan Scott now, moved up this year. What a great job. Congratulations on that. And sorry if I stole any of your thunder there, but go ahead.
No, you're good. Listen. So, okay, first thing. So, yeah, I am in a brand new school. And as such, I had to give my Mac away and go into the evil world of the PC. And so I'm still learning, these archaic ways of the PC world. So I apologize about that. But I am Ryan Scott, and I am the principal now of the Academy for Innovative Study in Evansville, Indiana. So that's where I'm at.
That's not all you do. Why don't you talk about what else you do? Just so
yeah.
That other thing, that's a big idea.
Yeah. So, okay. So, yeah, I'm a podcaster. Anybody out there, hopefully, if you haven't, check it out. It's called the Big Ed Idea Podcast. It's on all of the various platforms. But we just really try to create a space for all of those educators out there that have those big ideas of how to change the world of education. We have had some amazing guests, some great people. And it's been a lot of fun. And in addition to the podcast, I'm also writing my first book. It's all about increasing the student's hope coefficient. So it is the application of hope theory in the classroom to hopefully close the achievement gap because of the psychology behind education.
I like the concept very much. Hopefully you find some downtime for yourself and your family as well, though, because you're kind of busy guy right there. So we're going to come back to you, Ryan. Mark, welcome, my friend.
Well, thank you, Dean. It's good to be back. I enjoy this show immensely. So my name is Mark Horner, and I'm from Talmadge, Ohio. It's a suburb of Akron, and I am a 24-year veteran of the classroom, and I just got hired as assistant principal at the high school where I teach at. So I'm transitioning currently into that role. Yeah, I'm excited. Following in the footsteps of my buddy Ryan here. And just, I'm super excited. It's the great unknown. But I've been in my classroom trying to purge. I've been in our building. We've got a new building. It's 14 years old. I got a room in there. I've got 14 years of junk in there. I feel like I moved into a new house. I moved boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff into my basement today. So it's been a little bit of a weird summer, but it's been a great summer, and I am super excited about my new role.
Awesome. Welcome to the journey. Your life's going to change. You're going to be a bigger influence on a lot of people now.
Yeah.
You're going to have a lot of fun doing it. I know you are. Linda.
Hello and good evening from El Paso, Texas. We're kind of the far west Texas, almost New Mexico, and to Juarez, Mexico. So I'm a little bit of three here. But I want to thank Mr. Josh Tovar for the invite, and for Dean for inviting me here tonight. I feel very privileged and honored for being here with all this great leadership on here. I'm a teacher of 18 years. I'm an orchestra director. I've been teaching for 18 years at Socorro High School and Socorro Middle, but I have taught all the way down to 3rd grade. I started my podcast last year, and that was my COVID baby. I talked to the screen all day long because, the kids had their cameras on, right? And I said, I talk too much. I should start a podcast. And all the kids said, you should, miss. You're really good at talking. So I wanted to create a resource for orchestra teachers. There's a lot of stuff out there for band directors, choral directors, even general elementary music. But orchestra is a field that's very still kind of small. And every time my fine arts director or another teacher, we had a new teacher like, Linda, can you talk to them? And there's just no way that you can compact everything that happens throughout the year into one small conversation. So Richard Meyer, who is a composer that writes for the orchestra world, he said, if you've been teaching more than 7 years, it's time for you to do a clinic. It's your responsibility to share your knowledge with young teachers. And that's what pushed me forward to do that podcast. And it's just a resource themed. So whether you're a young teacher, a new teacher, a veteran teacher, that resource is there. So it's still my baby. It'll be a year in October, but that's what I've been doing.
Nice. Congratulations. A way to get out there and get out of your comfort zone and do something that's going to have a real positive ripple for everybody. And last up, Mike, great. Welcome back. Great to see you.
Hey guys, thank you very much. And I also had the pleasure of being on Ryan's podcast a couple months ago. So that was a pleasure. Great bantering back and forth with him too. So it was like, this is like a super group here, and I just feel honored to be part of this awesome group. I'm a principal in East Brunswick, New Jersey. That's right near Rutgers University, to give you perspective. It's kind of between New York and Philly in New Jersey. And I have been writing a lot too. I have my 3rd book coming out. I just published last October, Leading Schools Through Trauma, which obviously was timely. And that's what Dean and Josh talked to me about, and actually Ryan as well on their podcast. And I am also podcasting. I have something somewhat similar to Ryan's title. It's called Big Ideas in Small Windows. And the whole idea is, it's a great idea that you can do in little tidbits. But I can't multitask like Ryan. He's doing a podcast and writing. I took a bit of a break from the podcasting last few weeks so the podcast is still active, but I'm focusing on a manuscript that's getting ready to get published in the fall. That's called Radical Principles, PALS. And the whole idea there is do something different to address the inequity issues that we face in America. And it has to be, it can't just be the status quo. That's the whole point. And I get into some great research and all that. So that's what I've been working on. And I'm just pleasure to be back on with you guys. I love connecting with you in this way.
Well, I'll tell you, that's great stuff across the board. And anytime you can create knock down barriers and create opportunity for kids, it's a win-win. So get out in front of that and thump that horn. No doubt about it. Josh.
How we discussed the last couple of weeks with all of the other podcasters and prior to this, and even hearing it from your voice right now, Corona really affected you guys in a positive way in regards to writing books, the creation of a podcast for educators, whatever it might be. Let's not go all the way back 2 years or when it started in that ugly March. Let's talk about this past 21-22 year. Give us your reflective thoughts and let us know what you got out of 21-22 as an educator, whether it be in the classroom or as an administrator. What have you retrieved now that we've had a couple of weeks to reflect on it? What have you taken away from 21-22, Linda?
I think utmost it's being flexible. I knew we were nervous about going online learning back in 2020, but we were excited to come back to the classroom. But there was still a lot of unknowns as how we were going to handle our new normal. And to me, that was the biggest challenge because we went in there, we were excited, and then there was an outbreak, and all of a sudden half of your class was gone, and they were gone for 2-3 weeks. And how do you bring those kids back? And those disruptions were, it's like something new. We didn't know what to handle. So to me, my biggest take from this past year is you got to be ready. We can handle from here on our school year the way we've done in the past. It could no longer be that way. And I think a lot of teachers came in thinking that they were going to handle it the way they've done it for so many years, but you can't do that anymore. So we have to have resources ready for our students who are going to be sick or going to be out, and then have them ready online. And we thought we were done with online, and it's like, no, we still have to provide these resources for our students. So knowing and still being flexible that yes, it's still a hybrid at the end of the day. It's still a hybrid, and we have to provide that. And it looks like it's going to still go on like that for the next year, that if kids are out, that I have to be able to provide that for them. So continuing to be flexible.
Thank you, Linda. Just if you all don't know, in El Paso, out of the whole state of Texas, was one of the worst hit areas with COVID and shutdowns. They had to drastically rearrange the you're on, you're off practically overnight. And in that area, there's 7 districts. And the second that one does something, all the other ones have to do the same thing. And because of the high numbers in El Paso, Linda, speaking to you about thousands and thousands of educators and kids that had to shift from face to face to home. And so what they did at that level was something incredible. Thank you for sharing, Linda. Mike.
Yeah, so it's interesting. You kind of touched on this earlier, Josh, when you said, what are some of the things that, you guys have been doing some great things. And I'm looking more at what happened when kids came back to school, which started to happen much more regularly this year than we had seen in the year and a half before that. We went into total shutdown and isolation in March of 2020, of course, pretty much like everybody else. And I'm sorry to hear about what happened in El Paso. I didn't know regionally that had happened. So, Linda, I hope the kids are doing okay, because the first thing I think of is isolation is bad for kids. And one of the great things this year was to see how much they bonded. Yeah, there was some uneven success there because when kids came back, they were even more socially awkward. I work in a middle school, so they're already awkward. And this just added to that because they didn't have the social regularity of exposure. So it was really neat to see them stumble around a little more, but then grow from that. And they really did appreciate it. One of the most validating things for me was across the board, parents, teachers, and most importantly, students were so grateful to be back in school. I think it was the first time in my career, 25 years, that I really got to see what I always believed in, which is kids need to be in our schools physically, and they need to be learning and interacting in a classroom with teachers. There's no other way to do it. We can use all the technology we want, but the truth of the matter is, while it was a stand-in, it was never good enough. I'll be the first to tell you that I didn't believe that digital instruction was effective, and I hope we come up with better solutions if and when we're faced with something similar in the future. So very validating to Josh's point to see all this come together with such gratitude and bonding and relationship building and stumbling around and learning. And that's where we need to keep kids. So that's what I learned.
Thank you very much. They're between two blue devils. Talk to us.
So I've spent a lot of time reflecting on this past year, and when I saw your text about this, I just wrote a few things down. And for one, the power and importance of relationships just really resonated heavily this year. I mean, I've always been relationship driven, but with these kids coming out of COVID and isolation and just a lack of consistency, I had to be very intentional, more so in the classroom, of just making sure the kids had time to talk to me and me talk to them, and just really build a firm, solid relationship with them. And alongside of that, the power of having a positive mindset, but being vulnerable. I don't know, the kids seem to really appreciate the fact when I would just look at them, and other teachers in our building would just say, hey, we're struggling too. We're having a hard time adjusting to this new way of school. We're having a hard time dealing with the residual effect of what last year and the year before that had to offer. And so just kind of demonstrating and practicing vulnerability, which then allowed them to be equally vulnerable in the classroom. And we were able to tackle some tough issues. And then I think this year just really demonstrated to me and taught me the importance of slowing down, of forgetting about pace. Curriculum is there, and it's always going to be, it's you want to hit every standard, but kids are struggling, and they were hurting, and it allowed me to kind of look at it, teaching and instruction differently, and really value the kids, and just giving them an opportunity to share from their hearts and open up and start to heal, because there's a lot of healing that needs to be done. A lot of kids are still just struggling so much because of what they've been through. And one other thing I wrote down, I know this sounds kind of goofy, and Mike, this is kind of along the lines of what you're talking about, but paper and pencil instruction is okay. It's okay to make copies again, and it's okay to make them open a book and write and do things kind of the old school way, right? So those are some of the reflections that I've had about, the lessons I've learned this past year.
You can't go wrong with going back to the basics always.
No, yeah.
Mr. New Principal, once again. Talk to us,
me?
right? Yes, sir.
Hey, that's me. Hey, so so I heard a statistic a couple months ago, and it really kind of puts into focus what I learned. For every one person that died as a result of COVID, it affected 9 people. And so when you think within the United States alone, I think we've hit that magic 1 million number. That means there are 9 million people affected by this disease, and that's just the ones that passed away. And so it really, this last year, I'll tell you what, I've always said connections before content, but within the last year, I've really started to believe the psychology before pedagogy. Just the fact, and this is a lot of what my book is about, is that for 50 years, we've had this academic gap, and it's been between the highest income and the lowest income. And for 50 years, we've tried all of these pedagogical strategies, and nothing's shifted. What this last year has really shown me is the value of the psychology within your classroom. You had, more than ever, we're starting to talk about ACEs, and we're starting to talk about trauma, and we're starting to talk about stress and secondary trauma that our teachers are having to go home with. And then we had, when kids finally came back to school, them not turning in work. One of the things one of my rock star teachers showed me is that she said, Ryan, procrastination is not laziness, it's stress. And that really kicked me in the gut, because a lot of these kids were coming back not turning in work, and it wasn't necessarily because they were lazy. It was because they were so stressed out about the world. And so this last year has really, really shown me, at least in my viewpoint, school's not all about the ABCs, 1, 2, 3s anymore. It's got to be about preparing these kids for life. And there were tons of life lessons taught within this last year. And I'll be honest, I pray we don't go backwards. I pray we keep going forward with this focus on the whole child, that we've talked about for 30 years, and I feel like we're finally, at least where I'm at, we're really starting to do that.
Josh, I want to take this for a second because I'm listening to you guys all speak, and I love what you said. 2 words came to my mind: flexibility and forgiveness. That is what all this last year has been for me as an educational leader, because there's no doubt that I thought that the staff that worked through this, it was more difficult this year coming back and trying to reprogram kids, even when we were going fully remote. Coming back and trying to get everybody re-regulated and getting it back in that fairway was a difficult and daunting task, to say the least. And the other part, forgiveness, I was saying it all year long. Let go of the things you can't control. Because I'll tell you what, educators by nature are so hard on themselves. They beat themselves up all the time. So again, going back to what you said, Ryan, that relationship before teaching, it is so important. Find ways to connect with kids, get them back to where they are. And I saw a lot of that. And again, we all have to do those state standard tests. And I thought my kids did what they had to do. They're going to always remember that skill set, but they have to have one chance to be loved back, coming back to school and develop that love. And I thought that was really important, something that I saw as a leader. Back to Josh.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So now going into the aha moments that we had for 21-22. So now talk about yourselves. Oh, and I'm pretty sure you have peers, your sphere of influence, where you've been in touch with via text, via social media. What's your rejuvenation? What are you doing right now to make sure that you recharge the batteries and you're ready for 22-23? Ryan.
Okay, yeah. So what am I doing to recharge? Well, I tell you, my wife is the first one to tell you I am a routine guy. I need my routine. I'm a firm believer that our kids thrive with structure and routine, and this dude does as well. And so I am trying really hard to maintain my routine, which is normally 7 days of working out. Every day I get to the gym or in the garage or in the living room. I call it my sweat therapy. One thing that also rejuvenates me is setting goals. I love to set goals. One thing I've learned on writing this book about hope is that it's not getting to your goal that's so addictive. It's the work towards your goal is what really makes it worthwhile. And so this month for my July goal, it's 100 burpees a day for 30 days. And so up till this point, I've done 700 burpees. And then outside of that, I'm a firm believer in looking for those God winks that happen every single day that will let you know that you are where you're supposed to be. And it makes the tough days a little bit easier. And then other than that, I'm reading. I wish I could get outside of the education space, but all of my books seem to revolve around education. I can't. Like, I've tried, and it just keeps sucking me back. But then outside of that, I love to hike. I love to get outside with my daughter and my dog. So yeah, that's what I'm doing to recharge. But honestly, I mean, there's no downtime. It's not like I'm just sitting around doing nothing. I'm already ready to hit the ground running with my new set of kids. So that's what I'm doing.
Thank you, Ryan. Linda.
Definitely spending time with family. I'm a mother of a 9-year-old, not of 9 kids. A mother of a 9-year-old, and she's my only one. And my husband, of course, and I live with my mom as well. So just spending time with him, because once school starts, it's getting home. I'm drained as an educator. We give and give and give. And so to come home, so just having this time just to them, that's my utmost. They're the ones that replenish me. Personal hobbies. I do a lot of crafting. I teach on the side also. I teach a church vocal teams, worship teams at local churches. And so I'm a musician 24/7. So I continue to do that outside. I love to read, except I'm doing education. I do my educational reading through podcasting and audiobooks, but I'm actually reading Star Wars books. I love Star Wars, and I had a lot of been binging on all of the stuff, but I was like, I need more. So I started delving into the books, and I enjoy that because I get to talk with my high schoolers about Star Wars, especially the kids who love Halo and Pokemon, and it just gives us something that I can relate to them. But definitely, and of course, just time, devotional time, like Ryan said, to watch and just be grateful for those things. Just in the morning, I say, thank you, God, that you caused my eyes to open, and just be ready to set for the new day. And yeah, just creating, I love to create resources for my classroom. Again, not a lot of resources for orchestra. So I create a lot of posters and a lot of manipulatives for my students. So I enjoy doing that also.
Awesome. Thank you. Mark.
So I just prioritize my win the morning time. I tell my kids at school all the time that I've got to win the morning every day. And that carries over into the summer. It's a lot longer in the summer. Like I'll get up early and I've got to have my coffee, and I sit on my porch. I've been growing flowers, and I got a little bit of a green thumb. I'm working on it. I've got flowers all around me. I've got a fountain. I've got my hummingbird feeder going, and I just sit there and I read and I spend time in the Word and prayer and reflection. And then I read a book, and sometimes it'll be 2.5 hours. I'll just be sitting there drinking coffee, and I love it. It really recharges my batteries. And then my wife and I have been spending, we've been very self-conscious about working out every day. I'm very much inspired by your posts, Josh and Ryan. Every day I see them. And so I'm like, man, I got to listen to my podcasts while I'm on the elliptical or on the bike. And I got to get my 10,000 steps in and hit that goal, and just kind of work on the physical aspect and the recovery. And then just spending time with my kids, just making sure that, they're getting older. And I got a couple more years with them, so I'm just trying to hang out with them and just enjoy those relationships. So,
Don't
and
blink.
I would.
Don't
What's
blink.
that, Josh? Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah, what's really great is I'm listening to everybody here, and we're all like, I mentioned earlier, high-powered group here, very active, very ambitious. People are writing, podcasting, and most of what we just heard is what I preach, which is we have to take time for ourselves. And it's so easy for me and for anybody to say, I'm too busy to do that. That's an easy excuse. And yet all I've heard here is I am taking time for myself and or my family. Like Mark mentioned about his kids. My kids are my daughter's heading off to college and the other one's a sophomore. So I'm probably in the same general trajectory. And I'm getting that nostalgic feeling also. So I think it's really important for us to take that time with ourselves and our family and our closest friends, and enjoy the workouts and enjoy the moments and take that all in. We're all super active people. We've got administrative jobs, which is constantly busy, even in the summer, let's be honest. And we have active lives outside of there. And what I'm hearing is balance. There has to be balance if we're going to be effective at helping children, bottom line. So I would just echo that and say that those are the things I'm trying to do, is really take some time for myself and for my closest family and friends.
Let's talk a little bit about planning. We're all getting ready for that next stage. And I hate to say it, as soon as the last day of school hits, our mind goes like this. It just flips. Okay. You need to rest. I got that. But we're also obligated and we're charged with ensuring that we're going to have the gates open and we're going to be ready to go. So what are maybe two things that you really are so stoked about from a planning perspective as you start thinking about next year? Mark, you go first.
So I was really I had no idea what to do to plan for next year until yesterday. I sat down in our building. In our building, we have a new principal as well, and he and I met for the first time and had a lengthy conversation yesterday, and it was one of the best conversations I've had in a long time, and it eased my mind. He's like, hey, I know you're stressed out about the transition, and you don't know what the future holds. Like, you don't know what you don't know. Start with this. He goes, he wanted me to just jot down my whole discipline philosophy. So that's my number one objective right now. I'm just going to put on paper everything I feel and believe about discipline and write down every possible scenario I can. And then he also told me, hey, I want you to write what your job description, what's your ideal job description as an assistant principal. Write down everything. What do you want to be involved in, and what do you want to contribute to our school culture and our building and teaching and instruction? Put it all down on paper. And then in 2 weeks, when both of our vacations are done, we're going to meet and we're going to talk about it and begin planning from that point on. Up until then, I had no idea what to do. I got to get everything out of my room, and I got to work with the guy who's taking my spot and kind of prep him on the classes he's taken over. But it was the great unknown until my principal added some clarity to that yesterday. So that's where I'm at as far as planning.
I love it. Good stuff. Linda.
Yeah.
Well, actually at Socorro High School, we are moving in to our new fine arts building this year. Finally, we're supposed to. We haven't gotten the official call yet. So
it's a good problem.
Yeah, we could start the new school year somewhere else. So again, there's that flexibility, right? But so I have a new classroom there. I'm going to have roommates because I'm going to be sharing with some of my colleagues. But at the middle school, I teach at 2 campuses. I'm also have a new classroom. I have new admin, and I will have new fine arts coworkers. So there's a lot of new factors there for me, and I'll be the veteran in some of these situations. I actually love to follow a lot of teachers on social media, especially on YouTube. I consider myself a graduate from YTU, YouTube University, but they have, I've learned a lot from them, especially from elementary teachers. Even though I'm a music teacher, they have so much routine into place, and it just brought into light what I already do. It's like, oh, I've already done that. I already do that in the classroom. So I like to watch them and then translate that and modify it for my classroom. So again, this year, I'm just creating resources. That's my biggest thing. I also have, I provide my resources on TPT, which is Teachers Pay Teachers. I also provide it for them for there. So I'm excited to share that with my other colleagues. And as a music teacher, it's the same process every year. I just like to tweak it. I'm actually certified in a Japanese method to teach children since the age of 3 how to play the violin. So it's, again, that routine, it never changes, but it's just tweaked along the years. And so that's how I'm preparing.
Nice. Great stuff. Ryan.
Yeah, so 2 things that I'm very excited about. Number one, for those of you that don't know, I am taking over an alternative high school. And so every student at my school has been expelled from one of the area 6 high schools. So, it's a pretty needy group. But we are going in with the mission of improving outcomes for our students, whatever that looks like. My saying is, if it's good for kids, it's good for AIS. I am trying to empower my teachers to do whatever they think is best for their kids. Don't ask me, just try it. If it works, great. If it doesn't, okay, we'll try something different. But 2 things I'm really excited about. First off, now, while I'm all about the relationships, I'm also all about tough love. Now, saying that means high expectations, but that means lots of love involved. And so one thing that I'm trying to do coming in is really strengthen the expectations. We have students that are leaving classes, just running out of class, that are on their phone all the time. There's fights all over the place. And so I am developing, it's called a strike system, and I did it at my other high school. So for any low-level behavior, the teacher inputs it, and I automatically get a email notification, one of 5 people. And our job is, anytime a kid gets a low level, we are to just talk to the kid, just have a conversation. It's not a punitive conversation. It's a, hey, what happened during 3rd period? It's a, I see you were struggling today, blah, blah, blah. And that will increase conversations with trusted adults. But then also there is a breaking point. So when these kids get 6 of these low levels, they have to spend a day in our alternative education room, which is kind of like an in-school suspension. But we have beefed that up this year. We have a lady that is coming to us from a juvenile detention center, and she is going to be running social groups and going to be using that room as a restorative place for any student that lands there. So that's the first thing. I'm trying to increase those expectations for our kids in a loving manner. And the second thing, I have a school where I have heard do not go do home visits, do not go to that side of town. I think at our graduation this year, we had something like 15 cop cars there because there was a huge fight that broke out amongst the parents. And so I want to meet the parents because I need the parents on my side. So what I'm doing is I'm getting a team of barbers and a team of whatever people that cut hair. And so I'm going to send out a Google form to all my parents, and I'm going to let kids sign up to come in for a free haircut. The only thing is they have to bring their parents. And so while the kid is getting his haircut, I'm going to sit and just talk to the parents and form that relationship with the parents. And then follow up from that, I'm going to start to provide breakfast for parents once a month. And so, yeah, I'm excited.
Great stuff, Ryan. I love it. I mean, it doesn't beat the 700 burpees per day, but I'll tell you what, you're going to get that done. I know you're going to accomplish that. Mike, round us out over there.
I just had to piggyback on something Ryan said. I love the way he's getting into this part of town you're not supposed to be in.
Right.
That's awesome. It reminds me of a time years ago I went into Newark, which is urban warfare kind of an area in some places, and I was doing some professional development for teachers, and I walked into the classroom, and sat and asked the teacher, "Who's the most challenging kid here?" And the teacher pointed to the kid, and I motioned to the kid, and I went and sat next to him, and I struck up a conversation with him, and he was just a kid like anybody else. And all he needed was someone to say, "I'm not looking at you differently. I just want to talk to you." And so she was like, "How did you get him to engage you?" And I said, "I talked to him like a person." And he tested me at first, but I think that's the whole point is, of course, he tested me. He's built a shell around himself for so long that that came about because of those biases. So that's one of those things that Ryan and I have talked about before is undoing those biases and helping kids. But real quick on the planning, because you asked me that, and I just had to, I don't want to digress. I'm in a unique year because I was a 6-7 school, which is sort of a middle school, and we're becoming a 5-6 school. So 50% of my faculty is new, and all my students will be new. I see this as people say to me, "Oh my God, what are you going to do?" I see this as an incredible opportunity to restart a school community in a positive way. So I want to really take the time to welcome my new staff, welcome my new students and parents, and really just embrace that. I'll do that just one step at a time. Some of that is planning in the summer, and realistically, some of that is, okay, I can't really plan for these things, but I'm going to modify them as I go. A lot of my planning is a template that then gets modified. It will get modified. So that's really generally my thought and process moving ahead this summer.
So, thank you, Mike. The reason we're together on this 5th week of the Red Zone Podcast Smash is to discuss this free PD opportunity that we have provided all over the world. Because someone in Trinidad or Tobago, someone in Japan, someone in the UAE, they could see these podcasts and pick it up. And us likewise can return the favor. We find something that somehow we find on Twitter. Remember, you need to be on social media. If you're not on social media, you still rent your movies at Blockbuster, and you still buy your pants at Montgomery Ward's. So please put down the VHS and get at least on Twitter, if you're an educator, to make sure you pick up all of these free nuggets, all of this free knowledge. So how do you feel, team? How do you feel that we could continue to further expand our sphere of influence towards other educators and the system to make sure that we provide the change and the tools for success? What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, so I think podcasts are like perfect for this. I myself make it a habit, especially during the school year, of listening to a podcast every morning on my way to school at 4:30 in the morning. But podcasts are just perfect because you can stop, you can start, you can take notes on it. And what I've found for the great majority of these podcasts, they are just normal people. And like, you can just send them a message on Twitter, and lo and behold, they'll message you right back. they're just normal people that are wanting to speak, a little bit of truth out into the world. And so, yeah, if you are listening, definitely find you a couple podcasts that really resonate with you. I have a couple education ones that I listen to. I have a couple non-education ones that I listen to. That's find you a good podcast.
Thank you, Ryan. Mike.
Yeah, so I mean, I love the whole orbit of podcasting. To me, this is like an amazing free database to get smarter. And I mean,
Did he freeze?
I think he froze for a second, Josh.
Okay, Linda.
Yes, just like Mike was saying, it's just creating an area for that has specific resources. The way I have mine organized is, for example, during UIL competition for that new teacher, what are those checklist that I need to do? And so I bring in guests who have been teaching for years, that are veteran teachers. Maybe that young teacher doesn't have that opportunity to speak with that veteran teacher, or they're from a different district. So they get that opportunity, and it's there, and it's always there. It has different points of views, because I could share a different point of view from someone else. And that podcast allows us to go into depth into these specific subjects. And that depth is where people really find the resources that they need. And you can listen to it on your own time. We always say educators are super busy. I listen to my podcast on the 30-minute commute to work, when I'm washing dishes, when I'm getting ready in the morning. I mean, it's so flexible that you can do it completely on your own time. And as mentioned, it's free,
Thank you, Linda. Mike, we lost you for a little bit.
yeah, she kind of capped me off nicely. Thanks, Linda. You hooked me up there. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, just to wrap that, I heard somewhere that you get as smart or smarter listening to podcasts as you do reading a book. And there's no doubt in my mind, possibly even smarter, because there's such that database. Like Ryan was talking about, I listen to education podcasts, and I listen to a lot of leadership and motivational kinds of podcasts. And quite candidly, I've actually quoted people from podcasts in books that I've written. That's how powerful some of the stuff is. So there is so much out there, and you really just have to find your niche and then balance it. And so that's what I would recommend for sure.
Mark.
So podcasts have just radically changed my life. I mean, I am a better version of myself now because of podcasts. I tell my kids in class all the time that I attend Podcast University on a daily basis. And I've been doing so for, I don't even know how many years. But the very first educational podcast I listened to was Teach Better's podcast. And then that led me to being more involved in Teach Better. Now I'm a proud, Teach Better mentor ambassador. And Teach Better they radically changed my teaching philosophy and, the way that I'm in the classroom. And it was also through Teach Better that inspired me to start my podcast. It's called Between Two Blue Devils. I didn't introduce it in the introduction, but there's a funny story behind the name. Yes, it's influenced by Between Two Ferns by Zach Galifianakis. But what I do is I profile teachers, educators throughout our district, and and people in our community, and I just share their stories. And that has just made me a better human being and someone who just appreciates more the people that I'm surrounded by. Ashamedly, I've been teaching with some of these educators for over 20 years, and I've never known their stories. Then I sit down and I interview them. I learn their stories, and I just fall. One of my favorite podcasters, Todd Durkin, on the Impact Show, he's a trainer, and it's real high energy. But he said, the benefit of hosting a podcast is that you fall more and more in love with the person that you're interviewing. And that's what it is. Every time I interview somebody, I fall more and more in love with them. I'm like, oh my gosh, look at what this person is doing in the classroom, or look at what this alumnus is doing outside of our school, and listen to their story. And we can all grow from those stories and just become better human beings. And so, I mean, it's just an incredible resource to have. And it's free. Like Linda was saying, you can just pick it up wherever and listen whenever, and just continue to grow. So it's a necessity in my life.
Awesome. Yes. And you know what? I'd just like to give a big kudos. One of the biggest lines that sends out in my brain was listening to one of Linda's podcasts where she was interviewing a fellow middle school orchestra teacher. And Ryan, you're going to dig this one. He says, kids don't connect with you. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, because it's been a while. Kids won't connect to you because some teachers get frustrated. And the conversation was that you take the analogy, you take the horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And the teacher Linda was interviewing is that, well, the horse knows what's in that water, and that's the toxicity, and they don't want to drink from that water. And so, it's something to that effect. And I'm pretty sure I'm destroying what he said, but it was so impactful because it was very true. A lot of our team members give up on kids, and they say, "Well, I did everything. You could only take them to water." Yeah, but your water sucks. I'm sorry, and they're not going to want to drink from your water. And it's not the kid; it's what you are supplying them with, the type of water. But this is an example of how all of us are influenced. Like myself and Dean, we listen to these podcasts at different moments and different times of day, and it's only a reason to get better. And today's session also proved again how our collective brains have united once again and brought a bunch of home runs to the table. What do you think, Dean?
I am absolutely 100% in agreement with you. And I'll tell you something, from telling the stories to hearing the passion in all of your voices about what you do and why you do it, it just makes me stop and just remember that the world that we're in, the jobs that we've chosen are so important for everybody. And we need to be humble. We need to be open-minded, and we need to do the things that make others better around us. And if we do those things, your organizations will grow, and they will continue to grow. And I'll tell you, on behalf of all you guys tonight, thank you so much. We're coming up on 47 minutes right now. Just that little bit of time, just that little bit of opportunity for us to disclose why we are who we are and what we do. Just is a great opportunity for somebody else just to take it up one notch. So thank you all very much. And listen, hey, we're getting late, Josh. So why don't you bring us home right now, and let's finalize the whole thing.
So everybody, thank you for being here today. If you're watching it on the rebroadcast, please make sure that you like it and share it with everybody else. And you know what, Dean? I think that today ACTC brought another touchdown to the Red Zone. Great job to all the podcasters out there. Thank you for joining us tonight. Red Zone, 7 p.m., 9 p.m. on Thursdays, but this
on
Sunday,
Thursday smash.
Yeah, well, this Sunday we will have our Unlock the Middle session. Guests coming up, we will let you know ASAP. This coming Sunday, part of the Fantastic Four weekend with Coach Hurt, Shika Houston, Tammy, and Principal Calfelli. Thank you for coming to the Red Zone, everybody. Let's go with another touchdown.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a great week. Carry on what you do because you make the world a better place. Remember, kids first. Be well. Stay on staff right here if you can for 1 minute. Have a great rest of the week, everybody.